Hey Justin, how you doing, man? I'm Officer Alvord. The library staff is, we're away from the next month, 40 times. The library staff has, called and they're citing their new policies that were put in place. Have you had a copy or a chance to look over them?
I don't think he's going to answer any questions.
That's fine. We're going to ask you just to leave the property for today. Based on their policies, they've called and said that holding a sign is against their policies.
All right, I'm up here at the Lawrence Public Library. I'm attending their meeting that they're having today. It's called a special meeting, and they're going to be voting on some new, they call them free speech activity policy here at the library. They were supposed to vote on this at the last meeting that they had last week, but they didn't have quorum, so they're having a special meeting here today. And we'll see how it goes.
Okay. All right, so we are now at the public comment portion of the meeting. Reminders, if you would like to make public comment, you have 3 minutes to do so. Would anyone like to make public comment at this time?
Yeah, I would. My name is Dr. Justin Spees. You guys have used Max and James and Brad here. You've used the word content neutral, and I'd like you just to explain here on your free speech activities policy how not allowing protesting is content neutral, and then even going a step further, how prohibiting expressive speech is content neutral. Protest by its very nature is a counter argument to the argument set forth. Therefore, if you don't allow it, that's viewpoint discrimination. Max, I'm a little surprised to see you on here because at one event where I wasn't allowed a sign, you made the argument that because signs were allowed in there, that is the essence of viewpoint discrimination.
There's a content neutral way to restrict the sign. But I don't think you can then also allow those signs.
Yes, you can. The government can, in a form of this, they can invite people in to participate in different
Their
ways.
regulation has to be content neutral. They decide that there's going to be a written sign that is not going to be allowed. Then they can't also say that we're going to decide that this written sign is okay. And that's the essence, because that's the essence of discrimination. It's a content neutral decision.
Right, but these are two different entities. One who's going to invite it in.
That's the essence of choice. That's the essence of content
But just
neutrality.
because they allow one organization in to be present and provide information doesn't mean they fill out the plan or anybody else. They'll also have a table.
Unfortunately, so actually they could do that. But the way to make sure that Justin can't put the signs, if that's what they're going to do, is they have to make it so that there can't be any signs. That would be a content neutral restriction. But if we're going to allow this signage, but then not his, that is a content specific decision.
I disagree with you.
Fair enough.
Because
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Allowing people to have one sign in there and not allowing another sign, they are engaging in what is viewpoint discrimination. Maybe James here could explain how your free speech activities policy remains constitutional. There's case law, Airport Commissioners versus Jews for Jesus, 1987, all the way up to the Supreme Court ruling, said that it was so broad, which your policy here is so broad, that it is, in essence, limits every person's free speech in here by the wording of this. It says free speech activities include but are not limited to, meaning that it applies practically to everything. You've given some examples here. Can't carry signs. There's signs all throughout the library here. Hell, a book itself is a counter narrative to something. Protesting, using expressive speech or conduct. These things aren't allowed. Will these be enforced on library staff here or just visitors? You made a distinction between visitors and sponsors. Will library staff be able to wear their pride pins every year? Will they be able to champion some sort of a cause at all that involves any kind of words that they have to express out loud to get their point across? Will you start removing books because these books are, quote, expressive speech? Will you start banning books in here? If I were to try to get a book in here that was by me, would you allow it? Max, if you could answer that for me, I would appreciate it. The viewpoint discrimination one in particular with the signs. So Brad here mentioned that it's a limited public forum.
I would
but
remind,
when,
point of order, I would remind that public comment will not have a response.
So you're telling Max that he can't
Question
respond?
and answer.
Okay, we'll get an answer later.
anyways, before I was interrupted there, it's a limited public forum, but once you allow one viewpoint in here, you then cannot restrict another viewpoint. That is, in Max's words,
You
the
are at
essence of viewpoint discrimination. Thank you.
It's
No,
not necessary.
no,
Isn't necessary.
No, point of order, no.
Would Max like to engage in public comment?
Sure. I'll let you. I'd be happy to do that. I have 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Okay.
Sounds perfect. So basically, I think it's fair to address Justin's concern, and so I'd like to do that really quickly. What we have to remember, and what the case law does say, the case law that's directly related to libraries, that we have to remember what the interest of the library is serving, and that is reading, studying, and using library materials. It's not a license for folks to use the library however they like to. So once the content neutral policy is in play, then that's what's going to govern expression at the library. And as far as what happened at that event that Justin referenced, in the moment, if there's no clear written policies, well, yeah, Justin, and that's why the result that evening was properly where you stood with your sign near where the League of Women Voters folks had their sign. And so in that moment, based on what existed at the time, that was a content neutral resolution of that issue. And so in that moment, that was the right way to resolve that issue. But the library, in the interest of furthering its very significant interest to provide the opportunity for the public to engage in library services, it can engage in these content neutral regulations that allow for folks to have a channel of communication while also being able to allow the library to give the opportunity to the public to have that opportunity to use the library. And so therefore, content neutral regulations are the way that under the First Amendment, the government has decided that, because if the government couldn't establish these regulations and if we couldn't work with content neutral regulations, then it would be a free-for-all. We can't have that. Also have to be able to recognize that there are alternative channels for communication, and that's why this policy is constitutionally permissible, because it checks all those boxes.
Thank you, Max. Would anyone else like to speak for public comment?
Yes. I'd like to ask a few questions, and Max, if you'll get back to me later, that would be fine. But if I was to come to the counter at the library here and say, I protest that this book is in the library, am I going to be kicked out of the library under this free speech policy saying protesting is not allowed? Let's say that I use expressive conduct or speech and I express that I hate this book. And is that going to be getting me kicked out of the library for expressive speech because I'm expressing myself? Let's say that I was to ask somebody, do you find this book, Pussypedia, one that should be appropriate in the library? Am I going to be accused of disseminating information or distributing literature or expressing conduct again? I think it's pretty audacious that the library would actually head this policy with a statement that says this policy defines a visitor's free speech rights. Our free speech rights were pretty clearly defined in previous documents. Max, the issue that we have here with this is that you don't have content neutral here. What you have is you've defined certain people that are able to speak and certain people that can't. Now, I'm going to point out one thing that Brad said earlier, was that if a person reserves the room and they become a sponsor, they would have the ability to waive their requirements for their content only and nobody else's. And I do believe I heard him use the word outside. Where exactly outside the room? Is that going to be able to be done outside here on the library property? Where exactly can we do that? And then again, I'm going to draw you back to the limited public forum aspects. And you're trying to limit expressive conduct or speech. Those two don't go together well. And I'm afraid this policy here, I heard somebody quote it as something perfect for a constitutional law school final. Find all the violations and explain how they would occur.
Okay, anyone else for public comment today? All right, I hear no one else. Thank you, gentlemen, for your comments. We don't have any other business to attend to today, so we can go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Have a good week.
Thank you. I do find it offensive that a word that I can't say without offending people is on a book right at the entrance of the library.
What's that feminist agenda? Says, free speech died here. Ask me how. We'll see how they decide to proceed.
What are you gonna do? Just neighbor across the street is going to let her get clear first.
Oh, come on. Oh, come on.
be real blunt.
How bad did they fuck you money-wise? Because they fucked me good.
On what?
On everything. I mean, I've spent my life doing this. I don't have anything.
It's still to be determined.
All right, let's go see how this works. Stay quiet, stay quiet. Go do your thing. Go do your thing.
It doesn't matter. They have magical little codes and
Hey, come stand by me. This is free speech right here. Ask me how. I don't remain silent so maybe you can answer the questions that everybody approaches me. These are all sitting right here, so all these are gonna have to go.
I'm John. I'm afraid you can't have a sign in here, but if you'd like to hang on to it, I can show you where outside the library. I'm afraid you can't have a sign in here, but if you'd like to keep on hanging on to it, I can show you where outside the library.
I want you to point out to you that there's a Midco sign down there. We've got all this stuff here, pamphlets and signage
I'm
from
afraid
other
since you won't
places.
follow a reasonable direction of staff, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the library.
John,
Just a moment, sir.
yeah, he's not bothering me, John.
But he is doing something that is against our policy,
Well,
so
the problem
I'm
is-
afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
The problem is your policy aside,
Sir, if you don't
have
leave
too
now,
many
I'm going to
issues.
have the police escort you out of the building.
John, that's not the right way to
Okay.
go about this today.
So, is that what we're going to do? I'm sorry. Oh, sorry, I said, once I'm done with this, I'll come back and we can chat.
Oh, if you're gonna call the police, we'll chat with them. How you doing? Yeah, he was on the No, he was on the Zoom.
That's the guy that was giving me You're so entitled.
Is this a sign? Would this be a sign if I stood here like this? I think he's by himself. Looks like it.
How you doing?
What's going on?
No, nothing. They just gave us a call. They said that holding this sign is a violation of their policy, and that they came up and asked.
What about this one?
Can I see it?
Well, that's my sign that I'm holding.
Oh, is this your document, or did they give this to you?
That's their new policy.
That they just instituted? Okay. Warrants for violation.
Are you Michael or Steve?
Steve.
Okay.
Let's see.
Let me ask you something, officer.
Ask me.
Yeah, would you consider this a piece of paper with words on it?
I would consider that a piece of paper.
Would you consider these things pieces of paper with words on them as well?
Yes.
Would you consider that?
A piece of, yes.
If I hold it up like this, am I holding a sign?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just gonna straight up tell you, here's how I'm gonna do this. I don't know, where the line is and where it is. They're asking you to leave, okay? I'll have him come back here and say, hey, I'm asking you guys to leave. At which point, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm assuming you guys are gonna be like, we'll decline to leave. I'm guessing, okay? 10-4 timer off. At the end of the day, I'm gonna write up a police report, which is gonna document that they're claiming that you're violating this policy and they ask you to leave, okay? And that you guys just don't wanna say that you're, I'm gonna assume you're gonna probably say no, right? And that you guys refuse to leave. I'm gonna send it down to the municipal court and they can review it and decide. I'm not gonna force you guys to leave, okay? I'm not gonna.
So we appreciate that.
Yeah,
And
because
so
I-
you're not gonna make a determination today?
No, I'm not
What are they
gonna.
going to be deciding on that charge? Is that what they're saying?
Potential.
Basically, what happens in this kind of a situation, I've been down this road before, he's gonna write up a report, submit it to the court. If they decide to charge, the FOCA would file a charge with the
What
court.
would the charge be is what I'm asking.
Criminal trespass.
Trespass.
What's the crime? If you're gonna write up a report for trespass, what would the crime be?
The crime would be when somebody that's in control of property, and there's two different points of view here. Your guys' position is this is constitutionally protected activity, public space. We're saying it's a limited public forum, they can have these rules. I'm not gonna get into this whole debate right now here, because I honestly don't know.
Before you go too far with this though, I want to point out that this is about the signs, okay? And let's look right down here. On that door down there, there's a Midco sign.
Uh-huh.
There's an Alamo sign over there.
Okay.
We've got city
Sure.
pamphlets and things that they say can't be handed out.
Okay.
Multiple employees walking by here, it says, cannot have expressive speech. They have lanyards with buttons and rainbow
I
flag
got you.
good shit.
And then beyond that,
I would like to know why in the world they're targeting this specifically. And you've even said that it's not a sign, it's a piece of paper with words on it.
Well,
In a library. Do you realize how ridiculous that
hold on,
sounds?
but again, if we're going to submit a report for trespass, in order to trespass from a public space, which this is, it's taxpayer funded, there has to be an underlying crime, not just a rule violation.
I'm operating off of this wording out of the criminal trespass statute that when the person that's in control of that space, and I get the whole public thing, and even there
We're having the same thing with the city hall thing.
I know, but the city hall thing is clearly, in my opinion, I'm not an expert, city property. Would you agree with me?
Yeah.
The Lawrence Police Station, the lobby is clearly city property. This, in my opinion, is a little bit more gray. It's a Lawrence Public Library, it's open to the public, it's funded by the city. But
You just said the three aspects of it. That
maybe,
those
I
three
don't
are
know,
all that
I'm
really
not
matters.
there on all that, right? So can I just read this real quick?
Sure.
I'm sure it's probably on their website too.
Well,
So,
they just voted on it, so I don't know.
Yeah.
yeah, free speech only. Holding the community signs are prohibited. And you didn't even, correct me if I'm wrong, he's telling me that he approaching you haven't been, you've just been scanning her.
I haven't said a word.
Yeah,
I'm not a disruption.
I know. I get it.
I've been speaking, but I wouldn't call my speak a disruption.
Right.
The other thing is we've had several other violations of this policy happen while we've been standing here. A person came up and asked me about that, and I expressively spoke to them and gave them my opinion of that.
That's the essence of this. That's what you would be enforcing. You'd be going with them on that. So,
Or must provide a forewarning to the speaker at you. Okay.
well, but before anything, I need to know, based on what you've read there, what exactly this would entail that I'm not allowed to do.
I have no clue.
Right. So you would trespass me on no clue.
Well, the way that what I would tell you about the trespassing, what I'm operating off of is if somebody that's in control of the property, and I get this is different because it's city and all this stuff, but gotcha. But if somebody asks you to leave, the person that's in control of the property, and that person refuses to leave, there's a possibility that refusal to leave after being asked with somebody that with the authority to ask you to leave. If you refuse, you could potentially be charged with criminal trespass. Now, I get it. The reason behind that, the sign is going to be in dispute. You have no reason to ask me to leave. And
Beyond that, then when you're looking at enforcing a criminal trespass, you still have to look at the underlying aspects. In order for that individual to decide that we have done something that requires our dismissal, there has to be an underlying offense, and it can't just be a policy.
I don't know about that, Michael. I think that what you're talking about more is, the verbiage that you're using on that would be more like the interference or the obstruction stuff. What's the underlying crime? I mean, what if you come on, and I get the public property, but what if you come on my property? Do I need a reason to?
No, it's private. It's
Yeah.
private. It's totally different.
Totally different,
Totally,
right?
totally doesn't
But
apply.
let's say I'm on the steps of the courthouse, and the commissioners come out and say, I don't want you there. Can they trespass me from that? It's public property.
Absolutely. I don't believe that they can, because in my view, that is clearly 100% government property.
Or
This is a little bit more, I don't know.
I get the gray areas,
I
yeah.
don't know, because they have a board of directors here. They're funded by the city. I understand a portion of their funding comes from the city. I don't know all about the.
Some from the county, some from the city.
This is just my understanding of how convoluted it is for me to understand. Their employees, I don't believe are paid by the city, but yet it is funded by the city and it's run by the board of commissioners.
Beyond that, then you have to.
The city leased them.
The mayor is on the board.
And you have to go to the open public aspects of the library.
Yeah, it's all
And the fact that this is different from a grocery store, something that's a private entity.
I understand that's exactly the reason why I'm not, because I was assuming that you guys were gonna be, with all due respect, I'm not trying to be,
We understand.
but I'm prepared
we
for
just-
basically the next question would be, am I under threat of arrest? And then we go through that stuff. That's why I'm just saying, I'm not even going there, I'm just gonna write this down.
And what you're doing is the right thing.
Yeah, because I
Thank you.
don't know, so.
Well, can you do me a favor then? Can we get clarity from them what exactly they're saying that I'm doing?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring him over here.
Okay.
And I told him this, and I'm gonna say, John, if you could, I as a police officer, I'm not in control of this property or the private property. I need to have the person that's in control be the one that asks.
But is John in control?
He's an employee, I don't know. I've
Well,
asked him to
that's
come
what
out.
the statute said. You were going to trespass the people that have the authority to do it.
The person that has the authority,
Right,
that
Alan's
has to
here.
ask.
Right,
And then
right.
once that is refused, the police, and I get the gray area around here, but then I can't do anything until the person that's in control of the property has asked the person to leave. If there's a refusal, then of course the police can step in. I get the argument about public property, but you see what I'm saying? So I have to go through that step. It's like the Starbucks thing, or any other business.
Well, what about this example here, just real quick?
And you can
Is
ask
that-
him if you want to come over. Yeah, you want to ask him. I can't prevent you guys from talking.
As a
Is he
police officer.
trespassing Justin or both of us?
He told me that it was at this point that it was just Justin, but I don't know if he saw you were holding.
He did.
Okay.
So just saying. But what about this? Because it seems like you'll side with the people that are in authority, regardless of if you see there's an ethical issue or not. So, for example, what if John was saying instead of him holding a sign, what if I was a black guy and he said, "Officer, we don't allow black people in here"?
I understand.
Would you say, "Okay, I gotta ask that black person to leave"? Or
And would you submit a report to the DA?
Yeah,
Or would you clearly recognize the wrongness on that?
I get what you're saying, Justin. It would be clearly, I would recognize that, right?
As a civil rights violation?
Yeah.
This is a civil
I know
rights
because
violation.
because what you're saying is that this is constitutionally protected activity, and
Just because they had a policy that said no black people, it doesn't make it constitutional.
you're correct,
Right?
Justin.
So where are we going with this? Why would you side with someone that? Why would you just side?
I'm
with
not siding with anybody. I'm simply taking.
Well, I take it as siding because I'm sorry to interrupt you, because it sounds like if you're going to send that over to the attorney, that I could be charged for something, instead of just being like, you know what? Look, I don't think they're doing anything that warrants them to be asked to leave at this point.
I understand what you're saying, but because I'm uncertain about the legality of the totality of everything involved here, I get what your point is. I'm going to write up a police report. I'm going to say, from their point of
you would
view,
be certain.
What happens when you leave after going to write that report, and we're still here and you still want us gone?
nothing. I'm leaving. I'm
Okay,
done.
but where are we at then?
I don't know.
That really, we're in a situation where they want us gone or they want him gone because of the sign.
Because of paper.
The police are gonna write up a report and we're still gonna remain here
Yeah.
after the report is submitted.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know.
To be honest, I don't know if, if somebody knows more about this, is probably gonna have to do a legal review over this, you know what I mean? And it's,
Do you guys not have a phone number to contact the DA?
it won't be a DA, it'll just be.
Or the prosecutor's office? Elizabeth, in one of my court hearings, talked about how busy she was with all the phone calls she gets from LPD clarifying about laws and stuff.
What I typically do is that if we can, well, we had the thing over there at the Carnegie building, remember? Because I was the one that took the report on this, and I took the report, right? And you were the victim of the battery that you said, hey, I believe this is a battery, and I took the report. I went and talked to the other guy, and he made his statement, and I had the officer send them, municipal court, an email to say, please review this to see if, it's appropriate to charge battery on this, and that's kind of what I'm doing here.
So you don't see any probable cause, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I mean,
So no crimes are being committed?
I suspect. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that.
So then
I just
what's
don't know.
why is it necessary to submit a report then if you don't suspect any crimes being committed?
Well, you asked me if I felt that I had probable cause. I would probably say that if I felt there were probable cause, that I'd probably be taking some type of action, right? But not that I had to. You don't necessarily have to, but I just want to document this in written format with everything, your guys' point of view, what you're saying, the argument that you guys have, what their argument is, and let the legal system look at it.
It still seems like I could be charged, is what it seems, right? Doesn't it?
Put him aside, it's you and me. I mean, we know how these reports, I get it.
Well, it's just stating facts. Do you think, does it sound like I could still be charged?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
And you still could be, just like when he submitted the battery, that person still could have been. It's a decision that's made in the prosecutor's office. And too many times I agree with you that decision is subjective based on the feeling.
The thing about though is that, okay, so with that report for battery, I was reporting a crime. They're not reporting a crime right now. They're saying they're not listening to our policy, and then it goes to trespass.
Right. They're saying that you're violating their policy, and that because you're violating their policy, they're asking you to leave, and because you're not leaving, when asked to leave, they're committing.
The last thing I want to ask, Mike, is when you submit that report, would you do me a favor and please make sure to note the fact that we pointed out the Rico sign, the Florence Memorial Hospital sign, the city paperwork here.
You get it on body camera right now. Okay?
All this
Okay.
here.
And you see a Midco sign
Midco, couple
there.
places.
Okay.
Now, most of this other stuff has
LMH.
a Lawrence Library thing on it. However, this and this do not.
This doesn't.
Okay.
And so those are basically comparators that we're looking at.
Okay. I will.
And the LMH.
Yep.
So basically, what they're allowing government to express points of view in here, but they're not allowing citizens. That should be concerning for you as well.
Gotcha.
Government's in control.
Okay. I will ask John to come down here and just do the formality. Okay. And you guys can decide what you want to do.
Okay.
You can either say. You can.
I'll handle it.
Okay. And everything's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So.
Hello?
It's John again. So, as you know, we've got the copy of the policy that we got enacted, and so we're in violation of that policy, and so I was hoping that you might leave.
Is it just him or is it me too?
To my knowledge, you don't have a sign, but I guess perhaps I'll have to look into that.
Yeah,
But right now, we definitely know that that qualifies as a sign.
Well,
So
I guess-
How do we know
we'll
that?
have to ask you to leave.
How do we know that, John?
Thank you.
No, how do we know that?
That's all
All right.
I needed to say.
You had indicated that we might be able to ask a couple of questions here to get some clarification.
But he doesn't have to answer you,
Okay.
Michael. He doesn't want to, just like you don't have to answer him.
Fair enough.
So you're not going to tell me what part of the policy I'm violating?
May I? I believe it's the second regulation.
Will not permit free speech activities inside the library that would interfere with study and enjoyment of visitors of the library.
Yes,
You're
sir.
saying I'm interfering with the library right now?
Yes.
And how am I doing that?
Well, I think we just have to say that that's what's happening.
That's all we have to do. There's no holding a piece of paper with words on it in the library is disruptive.
That's another point here to, hold on, Justin, that's another point here. Because what we're indicating here,
Yeah. Okay.
what they're
May I speak to you some more before you leave? Sorry, Michael. I didn't-
Where do you want to meet at? We're back there?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. I'll finish up with them and I'll be
All
right there.
right, thank you.
what this is alleging in that number 2 that you just quoted, the library will not permit free speech inside the library that would interfere with study and enjoyment of visitors to the library.
Right.
Now, can you define what we've done that interfered with the study and enjoyment of visitors to the library?
No.
Okay, so is that report still going to go?
I'm going to document this. Michael.
Okay.
I'm going
Okay.
to document
Fair enough.
this. I mean, I'm going to document it. I mean, I'm going to put down what you guys said. I'm going to include these other signs, his statement, what you guys are arguing.
Would you ask them to provide you a copy of this policy to include with the,
You want me to I'll
have them give you a copy just to include with the report?
Sure, I'll do it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks, man.
All right. That should be it. I'm going to tell them we're done. The police are coming back. It's been handled, and unless something changes, that's as far as the police are going to do anything about this. Okay.
Thank you. We're good. In that rule, there's no fucking way that you can be accused of interfering with the study and enjoyment of the visitors to the library. There's no fucking way. Standing quiet with a piece of paper. Let's hang out for a little bit. I'm waiting for you to leave. Yeah.
So we got a comparative.
You didn't ask me to leave.
Nope. I mean, I'm going to narrate into your camera. Just think about what the audacity of this is that in a library. So I'm not holding a cardboard thing. I'm holding a sheet of paper. This is paper with words on it. Michael is doing the same thing. This is paper with words on it. And there's books over here, paper with words on it. Just the audacity of it to say that I can't stand here with this piece of paper with words on it. It's absurd. It's absurd.
It appears that all their literature is still sitting out.
Yep.
They've had over 24 hours to enforce that policy equally, and it looks like.
Go ahead, guys. It looks like it's all the same stuff.
Looks like the stuff's still out
Oh,
there.
thanks.
Thank you.
It's all the same stuff here. Just the yellow pages. Who uses the yellow pages? And that's Greater Kansas City even.
Yeah, it looks like more or less the same stuff. There's literature out. There's stuff out. There's stuff out. Do you want to go by the security guards here, or do you want to go? That's up to you.
How's it going, guys?
How we doing today?
Doing good.
What's up, man? What up?
Hey, once again, if somebody asks about this, I want to be silent. You will? I want to be silent, so if somebody does ask me. Oh, must have got checked out. Huh? Must have got checked out.
It's been moved down.
Oh, it moved down there. Down. How long's the library?
I don't know.
Maybe it's this guy over here. Come on.
What's up? How we doing today? Cool. So yeah, to for our rules that we have, holding or carrying signs inside the building. We're gonna say you do not do that. And if you don't do that, then we're gonna have call the authorities and they're gonna come speak with you guys. Cool.
Hey Justin, how you doing, man? I'm Officer Alvord. The library staff is, I'm gonna wait for them to pass by before we talk. The library staff has called and they're citing their new policies that was put in place. Have you had a copy or a chance to look over those?
I don't think he's gonna answer any questions.
That's fine. We're gonna ask you just to leave the property for today. Based on their policies, they've called and said that holding a sign is against their policies.
I think he's probably gonna decline.
I'm standing here holding my shit.
Right. Yeah.
I'm holding it.
Yeah. We're just gonna document this and move on. Okay?
Do you have any questions for us or anything?
What are you gonna do with that document once you document it?
Do you have any questions for us?
We're just gonna write a report on it.
Where does it go?
At this point, I don't know where it will go.
Just documenting it right now. We're not sending it anywhere right now.
It's not going.
There's a chance it could go to municipal court and have them review it, but at this point,
For what charge?
possibly for trespassing. But at this point, we're just kind of waiting for some clarifications and some things.
Do you have an underlying crime for that trespassing?
Okay.
Who gives that clarification?
We're in talks with our admin right now and things like that. So I understand that there's a policy put out by the library. Okay, but we're working through some things on our end right now, so we're not taking any enforcement action on you today or anything like that. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
Have a good day. It's 240-65311. Have a good day.
Justin, would you like the case number as well?
I've got it.
There's a case. So there is a case.
There's not a case right now. It could be forwarded to municipal court, but
He meant to say
Officer
incident
Alvin
number.
gave the case number. Michael says that he's got the case number. Okay. Thank you.
When you guys came back to address that, you addressed me too. What was I doing that was violating the library policy? said you guys. So I'm curious what I was doing that was violating the library policy. What's your name, sir? He called the police on us. I think we deserve to know his name.
I think the police were called on Justin. You are the one.
I heard a lot of they and them up here.
I'm telling you, Justin was one of the rules. The police were called for him.
Okay. So does he have a responsibility to tell Justin his name?
We don't have to say anything about it.
Don't have to say anything?
I'm just being courteous.
Okay. You know, I can just ask my 20,000 subscribers who he is. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I think we cleared this up. Have a good day, guys.
There's another shooting down here.
Parked in the middle of the street even.
All right, let's go, man. Let's get out of here.